Floating aquascapes are one of the absolute coolest looking type of rock structures that we can put in our saltwater aquariums, but they are not super easy to build all the time. So let's discuss that while we build one in the Sea Cardinal 22 gallon. Let's go. I make my own sound effects. So one of the major problems with building a floating style aquascape is actually having something in the tank to be able to anchor these rocks on so that you can build your aquascape off of. Now, in the previous video, I went ahead and siliconed this rock to the back glass. It's on its back right now, so that we would have something to build our aqua structure off of. In bigger tanks, or if you're going to be using rocks that are much heavier than mine, you might have to figure out some other sort of solution for that. And there's a few different ways you can go. I have seen people build racks that hang on the back of the tank, and they come out and then give a place to set the rocks and basically just stack them on a shelf. I have seen other people do the kind of reverse situation of that, and they'll make some sort of a cantilevered shelf with diagonal brackets that go down to the bottom corner of the tank. You can do this with stuff like black acrylic or black PETG plastic, you know, like the same stuff that they make like cutting boards out of and things like that. You can do it with that kind of stuff. It really just depends on your particular application. You might have to get kind of creative. In my case, my rocks are pretty light, and I'm not going to be hanging a lot of stuff off the rocks. So I used silicone, 100% silicone. And how much silicone did I use? Yes, I used everything that I had. It was a 3-ounce tube. I put it all on the back of the rock and I smushed it down to the glass. And this has been curing now for about a week. So we're pretty much ready to go and start building the structure. All right, so this is what that rock looks like inside the tank. If we get down there, you might can see some of that silicone squished out around the bottom of that rock against that glass. That's looking nice and good. And then we have these rocks up here that are going to be getting added to it as well. So for the first steps of this process, we're going to be using these two products right here. Now, this is a thick viscosity cyanoacrylate glue. This is basically thick super glue gel. Everything that I'm using, the links are going to be in the description. You can get them off of Amazon. This is an Insta set from Bulk Reef Supply. And this basically makes this set immediately. So when we put this on, we get things where we want them. We can spray this on it, and it's going to stick right then. Let's get started. So one of the hardest parts about figuring out an aquascape like this is figuring out how you want to put these rocks together. Now, after doing this for a very long time, I can tell you that if you fiddle with it enough, eventually you will find a spot where these rocks just sort of naturally connect together. I wish you could have felt what just happened right there. I do have enough space right here to pass a glass cleaner in between the glass and the rocks, but this sort of just locked in right here. All right, so I promise I didn't plan this before, but do you see the shape of this rock here along with the shape of this rock here? If you play with these enough, eventually you will be able to figure out where these things fit like a jigsaw puzzle, right? That fits so perfectly in there. It leaves enough space on the side over here that I can pass a finger through. I would like a little more room than that, so I'm going to play with it just a little bit, maybe kick it up this way just enough that I can put something behind it and hold it up. But this is what you have to do when you're doing this. You know, this could potentially go down here like this. I actually don't even hate that. And we could bring it around up here, see if it'll lock in this way. But what you really want to do is just keep fiddling with the rocks until they get sort of locked into each other. And once you have them locked into each other, that's when you glue it down. And actually, that spot right there looks even better than the first spot. I'm really digging that. Let's lock that in. Don't fall. All right, so now that we know that that is where we want that rock to go, we're going to take some of this super glue and we're just going to pick it up a bit and look and see where we can add this to make sure that we get a good connection. Now, all the way across the bottom over here, and don't be sparing with this. Be pretty liberal with how much of this super glue you actually use on these rocks. We're going to back this up in a little while with some two-part epoxy. So this glue is not the only thing that is ever going to be holding these rocks together, but you don't want to use just a little bitty bit of it. You want to go ahead and make sure that you have plenty of this on here. And then we're going to grab our activator and we're going to get in here a couple spritzes like so. If we can get around to that side back there. And there we go. Now, we're just going to let that sit and do its thing. So it's an important thing for me to tell you too, by the way, that this stuff is going to be completely inert in this tank. Once it is cured, it's going to be inert. But I am still going to fill this tank up with fresh, clean RODI water. I'm going to scrub the rocks with a brush, and then I'm going to drain all that water out just to make sure that after we put this structure together, that it has been washed and rinsed one more time before we set this tank up for good. So anyway, that's what I'm doing. You don't have to do it that way, but that's what I'm doing just to make sure that this tank is good and ready to go. All right, so let's take a look here. We're just going to give this a little bit of a wiggle just to make sure. Yep, that rock is stuck. So this is really neat, and I don't know why I didn't think about this before. I can work upside down, but you guys can see it right side up. How cool is that? All right, so I've selected another rock here, and we're going to just see where we might be able to position this rock to get it to kind of lock into place and just feel good to us. That's what we're going for here. This is kind of a Bob Ross sort of situation. We just want the rocks to feel good. We want them to look fairly natural. We want them to flow kind of, okay, that stuck kind of there like that, which, I mean, that's kind of cool. It's not really what I was going for because I wanted something over here like this, and then I was going to connect these out here like this. But I don't hate that, you know, kind of asymmetrical. Let me get the other rock and take a look. So I've got this sort of a plate rock as well. And if we sort of come off like that, I don't really like the way that looks. So if we put this here and put this over here, it'll give us a little bit of an archway. But I also wanted to have a hole through here, because this hole through here is going to give a nice effect on the bottom of the tank down there, which is inspired by a tank that a friend of mine is building recently for the Reef Keepers United Pico tank contest. And he built a C-note. Oh, look at that. So if we do like that, and see how this is connecting, it's like there's almost all the way across right there. That's touching. So that's good. And the reason that I'm doing it like this is because I'm just trying to give you an idea of the thought process. I like that a lot. And sitting against the back glass. And then we have some other rocks. So let me grab this other one right quick. So this is a little bit of a different type of piece of rock. This is very, very porous. And it's quite big as well. So we might be able to do something like this. And I would like a little bit more. So let's see if we can scooch this around. Okay, that locked in good right there. Now we're going to back it up with the epoxy. Like I said, we're going to make this super strong here in a little while, but I want it to kind of already be strong. So that's looking pretty good. It doesn't really give me the hole that I was looking for through here. That's going to have to sort of be right in the middle of the tank. All right, I'll tell you what. Insert absolutely cool time lapse here. Okay, so now that we're done with that, the next part of this process is using this stuff right here called Hold Fast. This is a two-part epoxy. Basically what you do is you get the wrapping off. There's a little like aluminum thing on either end, and you're going to pull off a certain amount of that. And you can see right there why this is considered a two-part epoxy. So once you have your little bitty piece out of the pack or whatever, you're going to start kneading this together. And this is super sticky. It's literally going to make your hands sticky. There's really nothing you can do about it. But the point is you want to knead this and mix this together to the point where it all turns this white color. It's going to eventually completely get there. Just keep working with it. You're going to have about a 7-minute working time with this stuff before it gets too hard for you to actually do anything with it. And then after like 30 minutes, this stuff gets so hard that you can literally drill it and tap it. You can file it. You can grind on it, all that kind of stuff. It's like JB Weld, but for fish tank rocks. It's pretty cool. It also, if you didn't know, this comes from the plumbing world. There's a plumber's putty that is very much similar to this. It's a two-part epoxy. You mix it together. If I'm being real with you, it smells just like this. Could be the same stuff. And I've used that stuff before as well, but it's getting a little hard to find. So this is what you're kind of looking for once you get it done. It's all pretty much that white color. It's still very pliable, right? But it is super sticky. Now, let me show you what we're going to do with this. All right, so let's get in here and take a look at this. So I went ahead and applied this, which I'm going to apply some in just a second and show you exactly how. But this is the basic idea. You want to wrap this stuff around where you have already applied super glue, where the connection points are between the rocks. And here's a little pro tip. You can take a little piece of rock like this and just push that into the putty all the way around, and you can rough up the surface of that putty. And when you do that, it's going to make it look a lot more natural. So it's always going to be a gray color, but once it gets covered in coralline algae and all the other stuff, and you put corals on it and stuff, it basically disappears. So let's put some right over here in this area so you can see how I do that. Let me see if I can work in here and allow you to see what I'm doing. So I've already super glued all through here into this as much as I can. So we're going to take this and we're literally just going to start, broke it loose. Well, here we go. That happens. So when that happens, just stop, take a second, reassess, and go back at it. All right, so we'll fix that in a second. But while we have this, I don't want to waste it. So let's go ahead and try to get this up in here. So you just start stuffing this in the crack. Try not to break your rocks loose like I just did. But if that happens, it's not the end of the world. Use your fingers, your fingertips. You can use any kind of instruments or tools that you can't, have at your disposal to try to get this stuff in these cracks. And you want to smush it kind of up against the rocks and kind of sort of flatten it out, really push it in there, and make sure that you have a good mechanical connection. You don't want to just rely on the stickiness of the epoxy to do this. You want to actually get a mechanical connection in all the cracks and creases and crevices. That way, when this stuff hardens, there's no way that rock can come apart. All right, so that's in there. So we're going to take our little piece of rock and we're going to start decorating this. Now, this is probably extra. A lot of people probably don't think that you need to do this, and they're probably right. This is just something that I like to do. And you could even take little pieces of rock like this and just bury them down. Like we're going to do that with this piece right here. We're just going to stick that little piece of rock right down in there, squish this stuff around it, and it's just going to add that one more little bit of structure that grabs onto all this. Oh, and hey, let me take this opportunity to thank my YouTube channel members for being absolutely awesome. I have multiple tiers over there in my membership, one as low as $1 a month. So if you want to support the mission of respectful reef keeping and make me be able to do projects like this full time, head over there, click those buttons. So I think this actually came out pretty cool. This is the first ever floating aquascape that I have ever made. And it does have quite a bit of dimension. I am going to be using sand with this tank, so that's why I wanted to place it up off the sand bed as far as it is. But there's a lot of little nooks and crannies and holes and places that little small fish and invertebrates and shrimps and things can go. And overall, I'm actually pretty pleased with it. Now, if we look at it from the top down, there's a spot kind of right over here where I'll be able to put rocks down on the sand bed, maybe have a micromucil garden or some other things. And it's going to give me the opportunity underneath that area, right in the back here, down on the sand bed, to possibly even have some dendrophilia, which are non-photosynthetic, and they kind of like it in the dark. So pretty cool. If this is your first time here, thank you so much for joining us. I'm Logan, and I run Reef Rookies, where I respectfully teach people to demystify saltwater aquaria. And if you liked what you saw in this video, be sure to subscribe to the channel and turn the bell on. That way you get the updates for this, because I am doing an entire series on this Cardinal Build, and it's going to be freaking awesome. So I'm glad that you joined me. Thanks so much for watching. Check out that video right there.